What is up, my Lorcana Goons, and welcome back to the Lorcana Goons channel. My name is Kevin, and you're watching the Monday Meta Watch video, where every week Zach Stone and I hang out together, go over your deck lists, meta trends that have been happening during the weekend, and at the end of this video, we're also going to play test one of these decks. Let's go ahead and start off with this Song deck that took a top 8 spot at the set championships. I believe G-Girl X over here actually won 2 set championships with their Song deck. Zach Stone, I know you're an Amber Steel enjoyer. This deck looks a little different than some of the other Amber Steel lists that we're normally used to seeing. We're seeing 2 copies of Chernobog Evildoer and 2 copies of the Amber Kristoff, a 9-cost uninkable character, 3/7 body that quests for 3, and you pay 1 less to play this character for every song you have in your discard pile. That's kind of nice, right?
Yes, and I do believe he has bodyguard, so he can enter play exerted, and that's a nice little ability to protect your singers after you get all those songs in your discard. But happy Monday, my Lorcana Goons. Yes, this is the Meta Watch video. We are going over your deck lists in the Discord. Make sure you join our Discord using the link down below and like, comment, and subscribe. It does help the channel. But yes, interesting take on the Amber Steel song deck. I have seen the Kristoff being played, but not the Chernobog in combination with the Kristoff. I think that this is more of like a late game bomb package. You aren't playing your early aggression like Smees or Daisies. Matter of fact, I don't see many 2-lore questers at all until you get to turn 4. And that's when you start to turn up the gas. And I think that's the point of this deck. And the point of this build is to kind of slow roll the game and get some early singers out, empty your hand, and draw 7 new cards. But we're only playing 3 whole new worlds. We're not maxing out on the 4 copies that we normally see. I think that in course that we are going to be adding a lot more uninkables, that you do have to kind of favor some in and some out. We are playing 2 copies of Grab Your Swords in this list, and it's an interesting take for sure. But hey, kudos to you for making top 8 in your set champ.
Next up, another red-green Ruby Emerald. This top 8 set champs list. Love to see this. This one by Eva Arla over here. Jingle Bells Discard version 8.5. I love this name. It's very high-tech, right? We got the Christmas colors making an appearance toward the end of this format, man. I kind of feel like sometimes a lot of us don't explore or experiment with a lot of strats and color combinations until it's too late, because Fabled is just around the corner, right? And we already got confirmation this past weekend that Prince John is not returning post-rotation, at least not in Fabled. So maybe this might be the best strategy going forward, because while you will have a discard package, you're not going to generate the draw for every discard you achieve, but you still have some pretty killer cards in here. You got Maui Shark, Robin Hood Sharpshooter, so many songs in here and actions to play off for free from that Sharpshooter, and you can combo that off with some exclusive dual ink colors, the Undermine ability that lets you pump up one of your characters and discard an opposing card. Very, very strong. And we're seeing 4 copies of, what is this, Milo Thatch, a 2/2/2 character that says whenever you play an action, you may give chosen character +2 strength this turn. Interesting. I wonder why that one.
That one's got to be good just so you can deal with some other characters that you normally wouldn't be able to deal with. You have the Ursula bodies, you have the little guys to be able to get a little stronger. Don't forget, you can make your Maui Rush an 8 strength character to be able to take out some heavy locations like the library. But I overall like the theme. I'm a big Ruby Emerald enthusiast. I think that this deck could work. I've always will try to make this work every beginning of the set, but congratulations. This is an amazing deck list. All right, we have a Ruby Amethyst list by Nico Please, a member of Team Salty Ducks, making his set champs top 8 with this Ruby Amethyst. I gotta admit, I don't see 4 Shark, and I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. But Nico, I know, shout outs to you. You are a local Lorcana Goon Squad supporter and a Ninja Exchange community member. So yes, I do see the Maui's Fishhook in this list, and I think that is a good combination with the Hero to All plus the Sharks. You are getting the full-on Amethyst bounce package with you have rabbits and foxes in here. We don't see the snakes and we don't see the goats because we do value the draw more than the lore gain. I think we are going more for the long game here, and we do have some flexible options. I do like that you're including Hypnotic Strength. It gives a character Challenger 2 and lets you draw a card. Don't forget, you can choose illusion characters and get rid of those pesky ones.
Yeah, I see Nico play a lot with his Ruby Amethyst deck. I'm a Ruby Amethyst enjoyer as well. So I think at 3 Shark, 4 Shark, you're still playing Shark in the deck. It's pretty consistent. You have a lot of actions to grab back. Personally, I've always felt like Maui Half Shark in this deck is nowhere near as powerful as it is in Ruby Sapphire. So I can see why 4 Shark in Ruby Sapphire is mandatory. In this deck, I don't think it is, but I like that this deck is kind of a hybrid. You know, we're not seeing genies, there's no Iagos, but we still have the Peter Pan Shadow Finder. You know, we're not really capitalizing on the Shadow Finder's ability to give like those characters rush, but you know, he's still great out to Diablo. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to give that Maui Half Shark rush too. He has 1 copy of Hades Ruthless Tyrant. This was really cool. I played against Nico at Ninja Exchange for fun not that long ago, and my deck doesn't play any of the Sharks or evasive stuff, but I play like super late game, like triple Hades in my deck. And we were talking about how Hades is one of those cards that can just kind of sway the match in your favor if you are going for that long game, right? And that in combination with Pirate's Life, you know, it's going to be able to slow the game down and put you in a much better position to win. I do like that there's a lot of outs too, like Ruby Sapphire too. 4 Rabbits, 4 Cuscos, 4 Diablos. You could just slap these on the board, and if your opponent B-Prep Sisus, you're going to get the value off of them anyways. A very awesome strategy from a very great player. Nico actually won that set champ, so huge congrats to you and all the members of Team Salty Ducks, because I know it was like a 16 player thing, and like there was a lot of you guys in the top cut, so that was cool. And here we have a second place Ruby Amethyst list from their set championships by Fiend. We covered this list and this player last week on the channel, so we do want to mention once again there's a full tournament report on the Dreamborn link, and we have the links for all the deck lists in the description down below as well. So if you want to try any of these cool deck lists like this Ruby Amethyst toolbox deck, you can get it from the link down below. Once again, huge congrats to all of you guys for doing well, your set champs.
All right, an Amethyst Steel list. This one made top 8. Congrats to Sawyer Tesmer. I really have to say this list is interesting. We are playing the one Restoring the Crown, and we do kind of mid-range it out towards like later in the game with like the Iagos, the Goats, the Bells, the Elsas, and we do have a decent song package with the 4 Friends, 4 Strength, and 2 Zeus. We aren't really looking to deal with many of the characters in play, and with Amber Steel also being a very popular deck, I do like the ability to play Pete and repeat it with the Fox Bounce.
Restoring the Crown is a 6-cost uninkable action that says exert all opposing characters. Then whenever one of your characters banishes another's in a challenge, you're going to gain 2 lore. So that means if you have Calhoun on board and you use this card, you use Calhoun to clear a character, your Calhoun's going to net you 4 lore, and the rest of the turn, any other character is going to get you that advantage too. It's so funny, whenever I see this card, I think of the Zan Syed World Championship match that was on stream. I don't know if you saw that match, but in the first round of Worlds, it was Zan versus Frank Karsten, and Zan actually used Restoring the Crown to take one of the games in his sealed deck, which is kind of crazy. So it's a very powerful card. I'm surprised more people don't use it, but it's very much a late game card. Huge shout out to Joseph D'Amico for making it the top 8 with an Amber Steel deck list that looks very consistent. Just 4 copies of every card. We have Piglet, Robin Hood Shift Package, Cinderella Ballroom Sensation, so you can make sure you sing Storm Rage on and Strength of Raging Fire. And a Whole New World. It's definitely a wheel deck, you know, gotta make use of Whole New World before it gets rotated out, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna miss A Whole New World. It's definitely one of my favorite cards of this game, and I know you're not a big fan, but I like having some fun. I like drawing some new cards, and I like winning the game, and that card just wins games.
And a huge shout out again to Melee over here for getting another first place at a set championship with their Hamster wheel deck. Member of Team Quest Kids, we featured her last week where she won a set championship with Amber Steel, and here she is doing it again. So just wanted to say huge congrats and another huge shout out with the minor changes in the deck list, but we will still drop it in the link down below. Here we have a dogs, hamsters, and a pig deck by Jaime Cabral. This is pretty cool. This is a more mid-range aggro kind of Amber Steel deck that I would like to personally play when using this color combination. I don't know. I like questing for 3 or more, right? So cards like Piglet are very cool to me. Donald Duck, the Musketeer, is a very strong card because you're going to be able to give another character +1 lore that turn. So if you play Penny or you follow up with a Donald, you know, you're starting to quest for a lot of lore pretty early on, especially if you're giving characters with resist so they can keep questing, like Mr. Smee over here, or your Shift Rhino.
I would honestly admit this is dogs, hamsters, pigs, and ducks. We got Daisies and Donalds making their way in this Amber Steel aggro deck. And I know a lot of people are not a big fan of playing against this color combination when it's just turning a bunch of little guys sideways. But hey, Amber Steel does Amber Steel things.
I think that this deck is going to stick around pretty confidently. Most of these cards you can play post rotation, or we've already confirmed are coming back, like Piglet over here. We might lose Lawrence, maybe Rapunzel, but I get the feeling that this strategy is going to stick around. We're keeping Strength of a Raging Fire. We know that now for sure, right? So it's kind of fun to see how week by week we're starting to slowly see which decks you could just kind of immediately play post Fable and which ones you cannot because of how many cards are being used. But for the most part, Calhoun, Doc, Rhinos, Plutos, many of these cards are post set 5. So, I feel like for the first 4 sets, if you wanted to play Amber Steel, you had to play it in that vacuum of Whole New World. And it's kind of refreshing to see the amount of ways you can play this color combo now. Another set champs deck here by Hey Brad, a John and his Muses deck. This is going to be a Emerald Amber Song deck. Most of the time, this deck strategy is going to revolve around you setting up maybe an Ariel with a Prince John on board, possibly follow that up with the Muses, because anytime you sing one of your many songs, you'll be able to trigger Muses, bounce some cards to the hand. We don't talk about Bruno can discard cards from the hand alongside cards like Hypnotize, You Have Forgotten Me. We're playing 1 copy of Chip just to make sure our opponents get mad on turn 4 if you have the perfect curve. I like this deck a lot. I feel like, and I've said it many times, the one-sided board wipe, the Kita Under the Sea combo is just undefeated. I think that's just a very strong strategy, and it's pretty easy to rely on when you have so many ward characters.
Yes, and honestly, I love this deck, but I think the name would change, and I would change it to Ink Pass, because no matter what, that's what you're doing turn 1. It's amazing that there's no 1-drop in here, and this deck is that strong. I've always felt that I've always felt like this color combo is really strong, and a heavy control deck with just a lot of variance is just very strong in the meta like this. Being able to bounce and replay your own characters with Muses is such a versatile option, and you have so many tools to deal with the meta right now with this deck. It's awesome to see it do well and take down some set champs during the season.
That's a really good point, Zach. I always forget that you can bounce stuff with Muses that is on your side of the board too. So if you have an Ariel, an Ursula that you want to trigger once again, you can just bounce it back with Muses and play it. Or if you have this Lady Tremaine, 6-cost uninkable, you can also bounce this back to your hand. This Lady Tremaine says when you play this character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand. So there's a lot of interesting loops you can do with this. You play Lady Tremaine, you grab a song from your discard, you sing it with one of your characters, Muses triggers, you return the Lady Tremaine back to your hand. Now you can just grab back another song next turn, maybe even that same turn if you have enough ink somehow. Very cool deck, very cool deck. Once again, huge congrats to you, Hey Bard. Next up, a Sapphire Steel list by Solo Falcon with his set champs second place finish. Love to see this. Immediately, I'm asking myself, what is the difference between Hey and Monterey Jack in this deck? They're the same card, right? A 5-cost inkable character with Bodyguard that can quest for 2, 4 strength, 5 willpower. That's pretty much it. They're both allies though, which is really cool because you can find those off your Jasmine, Steady Strategist, and Hey is a Dreamborn while Monterey Jack is a Storyborn. That's the only difference, right?
Yeah, I think so. I guess stat-wise is the same, and that's the beauty of Lorcana. You could just kind of play your favorite characters from your favorite IPs and have some fun with it. And it's cool to see that there's options there with the same static characters. But if there's ever a world where you decide to play the Shift Hey with the Dual Link, then there is more merit to be playing the characters with the same name, 100%. But with this deck and this list, I don't see a reason to, and I like having fun in this game, of course. But overall, shout out to Solo Falcon. You are an amazing supporter and contributor in our Discord. So again, really appreciate you for dropping these deck lists.
This is very reassuring to me because I've been trying to make Sapphire Steel allies a deck for a while now, and I like this a lot. We have Doc, we have Whole New World for some extra draw power. I'm not really a Whole New World kind of guy, but I like it in this version for some reason. I like that you can search out your ramp with your Jasmine, your Pleakleys and your T-Pos. They're both allies, so if you ever need more ramp in your deck and you just can't find it, that Jasmine's gonna get you there. I think that's pretty cool. Here we have some Blurple for all you blue-purple fans. A top 8 set champs Blurple list by Jeffrey Kwan here, but specifically a Jafar style list. I did see them mention in the Discord they want to give Jafar one last hurrah before the rotation using Jafar Striking Illusionist, a Floodborn character that will let you gain 1 lore every time you draw as long as this card is exerted. Very powerful. It goes alongside all of your draw engine like the Genies, Finders Keepers, the Lamp, or even your Maleficent Mistress of Evil over here, which is a 5-cost character. Whenever this character quests, you may draw a card, and whenever you do draw a card, you can move damage counters around, specifically move one damage counter around, right? But still pretty convenient, again, in a deck that lets you draw over and over again.
This list is spicy and it has tons of value throughout its whole It has tons of value using the wide range of draw cards from the Amethyst package. We have the 2 genies, and you don't forget about the other genie. That's the one that can quest and shuffle himself back into the deck to draw 3 cards. If you have an exerted Jafar in play, you are gaining that lore. And don't forget about the lamp, being able to draw more cards and bounce characters back to the hand as that added disruption that Amethyst likes to have. You are going to make your board very sticky too with that Cogsworth, so I do like the 2 copies of that. And to top it all off, that legendary Maleficent's finally getting to see some play. So honestly, again, congrats.
Hey, Zach, do you know if I draw 3 cards off of like Finders Keepers while I have this Maleficent, do I move 3 damage counters or is it just 1? Because the way it's worded, it says during your turn, whenever you draw a card, you may move 1 damage counter to chosen character.
Drawing 3 cards is drawing a card 3 times. So yes, you move 3 damage counters.
Ooh, that's really cool. Yeah, see, and that's what I really like about about this card in this game. In this deck, I feel like you can really manipulate that in your favor. Bell Accomplished Mystic is already a very powerful card for that reason. That's pretty cool. You know, maybe we should be looking into this Maleficent Mistress of Evil a little bit. Congrats to Flow Rider for taking a set championships down. I know they've been talking about trying to get it done in this set championship, and they finally did it. They expressed how happy they were in our Discord, and they took it down with Amethyst, Steel, Brooms. Love to see it. I know. Some people, every time I call this a broom deck, I always get one comment in the comment section saying this isn't really a broom deck. It's only playing 2 brooms. You know what? It's playing 2 brooms and the Yensid package. That's more brooms than any other broom deck is playing in the meta. So this is a broom deck. Sorry to say it. Amethyst Steel though, realistically though, there's like no other good broom you can play. Like, let's be real. There's not a single other good broom card you can play, and 8 brooms is more than enough. You're really only trying to trigger this Yensid like once or twice in terms of drawing a card, and questing for 3 is not always going to happen, and there's no point in playing a bunch of other bad broom cards in your deck just for the one Yensid in your deck. Now, I understand maybe trying to fit in the Mickey Mouse package too, but at that point, you're taking out such good cards. You could be playing Genies, Goats, Elsas, Pete, the Bounce package. You know what I mean? You're better off playing those instead of the Mickey Mouse broom stuff. So, broom package in an Amethyst Steel deck, I like it a lot. We've been seeing this since the beginning of this format, actually. Since the Charlie's Collectible shows, we saw DKP play this kind of deck at the World Championships, and I feel like it's a very consistent deck to rely on. You have a lot of ways to remove cards from the meta, like Fire the Cannons to stop opposing Diablos. You have Zeus here to stop the opposing Sharks and Sisus, and you have Pete to stop the opposing Be Prepareds.
Yes, it's going to be a sad day if we don't see the broom cards It's going to be sad if the broom cards all get held back and not graduate into Fabled. That means you won't be able to play any more of these cards in the competitive constructed format. However, Infinity format will exist for the broom cards. But I'm going to call it right now. Whispers in the Well is going to bring back the broom. So let's have some fun while we can. But I'm more hopeful that it'll come back and make a return. Another top 8 Sapphire Steel deck. This one is from down in New Orleans. This one is down in New Orleans over here. And we have the Kit Cloud Kickers, Gastons, and don't forget, we got the Namari to find those cards and get to that strategy sooner. You also can't forget, too, that you are skipping your draw step when you have that Arthur, that Dual Link one in play. But that's a pretty big boy. A 6/6 for 4 that quests for 3. And I think you don't really need the card draw because you have tons of value with your Beast. You can get your extra card there. You can also find more cards off the Gaston. And if you just have tempo, you don't need to draw more cards. You're just going to win the game by turning guys sideways. Kevin, what do you think about this Sapphire Steel list?
I like it a lot. I feel like people have been trying to make Down in New Orleans one of the top contending songs of the recent meta, and it feels kind of like a gimmick, right? Like it's kind of hard to pull off because there's no guarantees, but in a deck like this, you have a lot of good targets. Miss Bianca, even just being kind of a vanilla, is still pretty good as a 5/5 that you got to play early because the way you're ramping into this strategy, right? You have Sail, you have Tipo, so you're going to be able to possibly even do plays where you're going to be able to do you're going to be able to possibly do plays where you go Cloud Kicker, ramp shift into your other kit, Cloud Kicker. It's going to leave you with some extra lore left over, so you can even play a popsicle to follow up with that, which is always very nice. But down in New Orleans is a pretty good card. You have a lot of great targets. I think the best one's probably the Gaston, right? Because you get value off of it immediately. And Gaston Quest for 3. Next up is probably Beast and Namari. I think those are like the next targets you want to see. But even a Cogsworth will just blanket the board with Resist. I do gotta ask though, I wonder how often or how important this dual ink Arthur is. Especially since you're skipping your draw step. At some point, does it still matter, or do you just not care about your draw step anymore? Like if you just set up, do you only play it when you set up your Beast Tragic Hero line? Very interesting deck though. I want to try this out myself. And for those afraid of the rotation that your Rapunzel, your precious Rapunzel, is not gonna survive, how are you gonna play your Amber decks without your precious legendary Rapunzel that lets you draw 3? Such a good card. Well, shout out to Insomnia Gaming over here, posting in our Discord there, Singing Heroes deck, quotes, Singing Heroes deck that says, I don't have the healer, right? So no Rapunzels in this deck. I feel like this deck is like almost rotation ready because of that, right? But if you've been trying to play Lorcana on a budget, maybe you want to try this kind of strategy. We have a 4-cost fill, steel character, 2 strength, 3 willpower that says your characters gain challenger +1, the ones that are heroes, by the way, and whenever you play a hero, gain 1 lore. So you have some extra ways to burst lore, and all the princesses are all heroes as well. So that synergizes very perfectly. You have the lady family dog that's also a hero, so you can do some cool combos where you play lady, and off the lady's effect you play a Lilo. Now you're gaining 2 lore with that fill. I like that. It's kind of cool, no?
Definitely cool and definitely exciting. But there's a common trend I've been seeing with these Amber Steel lists. There's 3 whole new worlds for the spicier versions, I would say. And
Yeah.
honestly, I get it. I get it. You have to trim down some cards to fit some other ones, and you really can't cut a lot of the other core strategies. But I do think that does remove like a win condition. You do have to keep in mind that like 4 whole new worlds can possibly deck opponents out. 3 is just going to be a lot harder to do that with. They're going to have to draw a lot more cards and go through the deck a lot more for you to achieve that. So just remember that your options are limited into how you can win the game when you are removing cards like Whole New World from 4 to 3 copies.
I also like that they're still playing the Simba Protective Cub. This is a 2-cost bodyguard character from the first chapter. Turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 Simba still probably proves very, very annoying. It used to be Lilo, now it's Daisy. I personally would have played a Jim Deere because Jim Deere is a 2-cost 0-4. I like that 4 willpower currently right now, but Simba getting the job done. Maybe Simba's even better with Tiana on curve, because Tiana, nobody really plays this card. I gotta read this one. 3 cost uninkable, 1 strength, 4 willpower. Whenever a character of yours is challenged while this character is exerted, the challenging character must pay. The challenging character gains -3 strength unless its owner pays 3 ink. So that's a very, very, very powerful effect in my opinion, because it almost guarantees that most challenges aren't going to go through unless your opponent pays 6 ink or something to just clear the Tiana before they continue with the rest of their turn. It's going to eat up a lot of tempo, and I think it's a very strong strat to add to your deck, especially if you don't have something like Rapunzel. So all in all, shout out Insomnia Gaming for getting your set championship top 8 with your Amber Steel no Rapunzel deck. There's so many ways to play Amber Steel this format, Zach Stone. We have AZ Aquaman, fellow Lorcana YouTuber, go check out his channel, winning another set championship with his Mufasa deck. Set 8, Mufasa and the Squad is what he calls it. And if you follow the channel like I do, you know that he's known for taking Mufasa all the way to the top. A lot of characters in this deck because that's Mufasa's ability. When he's banished, look at the top card of your deck. If you reveal a character, you play it for free. You only have 8 non-characters in this deck, and I think the odds are always in your favor, especially if you're using the mulligan to your advantage. You're going to be able to kind of count how many cards you've gone through. You open up Storm, you ink a Strength. That's already, 2 of the actions gone. Your Mufasa's probably going to hit a very strong character like maybe Goof, Groundbreaking Chef, maybe even something small like a Doc, right? That must be pretty good to hit a Doc on the opposing turn. If you have no cards in hand, you get 2 free cards.
Well, I honestly think that that's got to be just something that's good, right? But what's got to be better is, drawing 3 off Rapunzel after getting rid of something with Lawrence. But I do want to add that Lawrence in combination with the Chef Goofy just sounds like an impossible combo that's hard to beat. You're able to swing down something and then just re-ready it, quest again and re-ready it until it gets its 4 strength back, and just repeat the process all over again. I honestly think that that's fine if Rapunzel doesn't really graduate into the new meta. I I think that Goofy's actually going to replace it, and we're going to see people kind of use that strategy more often. It's not going to get you cards, but it's going to net you a lot of tempo, and that might be the trade-off there.
Do we know if Lawrence is surviving the rotation, or we don't know if Lawrence or Smee are surviving yet, right?
Not as of currently, as of today, August 4th, we do not know if they're graduating, at least not at the time
Mhm.
right now. They are still revealing stuff to this day.
Yeah.
So we hope to see that
Yeah.
we have a full list soon and we can prepare for this new meta.
I'm personally hoping for the Rapunzel downgrade. That's just I'm hoping. Like, if Rapunzel does come back, I mean, obviously it has to get downgraded, but I'm hoping it's downgraded. It's easy to pull. I want to see everybody with Rapunzels in their deck. I want to play against some Rapunzels. Huge shout out to and Eric over here, taking it all the way to the top with a Ruby Sapphire Shark, with a Ruby Sapphire Shark deck, very similar to the DKP style deck. Yamas Lasagna is what he called it. 2 copies of Supergoo, 4 copies of Grandma Tala. You have the Tamatoas, the Hades, the Sisus. A lot of people were experimenting with Maleficent Monstrous Dragon in combination with Hades, but one or the other. Hades still pretty good too. It's an earlier cost card, so you're going to be able to manipulate your ink a little bit more in your favor. 2 copies of Hideaway, very, very important to get rid of those pesky Micduck Manners or even the opposing Maui's Fishhook, right? Because you got 8 Mauis in this deck. There's like almost no reason to not play Maui's Fishhook in this deck. Panderic also makes content, so be sure to check out his YouTube channel, his Instagram, and I believe they stream on Twitch too. So go check out their channels as well. Very awesome content. Congrats again, guys.
Last but not least, and no, we do not leave red blue intentionally as the last decks we're going over, but this is the hybrid version, as I would like to call it, by Illumateer's Ohana. So shout outs to you again for dropping this deck list in our Discord and making top 8. This is a hybrid build with items and sharks and a bunch of actions. But look at this. Look at the spread out between the variants here. This is like a toolbox if I've ever seen it. You got the removal packages with the Sisus, the Maleficent, but also don't forget you have the Poison Apple and the Merlin's Carpet Bag, being able to reoccur this item and remove characters over and over again. Don't forget too, Tamatoa can also keep adding it back, and that's a lot of insane value, but you can still close out games with the hands held high and the Sisu package too. Get rid of some big boards with that combination. You thought Kita Under the Sea was crazy. Wait till hands held high and Sisu goes down, Kevin. That's the same thing, but even worse. And of course, everybody's favorite location, Micduck Manors in this list as a 4 of. It's nice to see that there's still like variants and different options you can go with this red blue strategy, but there's so many cards in here that we will not know if they're getting graduated until they have the full set revealed, and there's going to be a lot of changes. I will admit red blue is going to have a lot of work to do.
All right, fellow Lorcana goons, if you're still here, like, comment, and subscribe, because we're about to go over an alter process a couple times. We're going to alter our opening hand with this yellow-green John and his Muses deck by Hey Bard. Now, we opened up Double You Have Forgotten Me, the Muses, Under the Sea, Prince John, Ariel, and the Muses again. So let's just go ahead and assume that we're going first. It's game 1 in a tournament. We're fresh into this local scene and we have no idea what our opponent's playing, right? What are the first things that run through your mind? I'll tell you off the top of my head, Zach, I don't like Under the Sea in my hand because I don't want too many songs for an opposing Emerald Mirror match. I feel like You Have Forgotten Me, Prince John, is such a good curve if I'm going first, so I want to keep those almost 9 times out of 10. So I'll put away one You Have Forgotten Me, and then maybe a Muses because we don't need that many. You mentioned something earlier, there's not a single 1-cost character in this deck, so what are we really searching for?
We're definitely looking for a 2-cost character. I think that's kind of the point, is that like we would rather just kind of more commit. We'd rather commit the ink and spend on turn 2 getting a character like Ursula Vanessa, Ursula Deceiver, and then we can look at the opponent's hand after that too and get some knowledge into the matchup if we didn't get much on their first turn. But I kind of like what you mentioned. However, I'm not keen on keeping like a copy of Muses. I know that sometimes this card's really good, but I honestly would rather like build a board before I drop a Muses. And something like Ariel and Prince John are good to see, but I am looking for the 2-drop character. So like you mentioned, the You Have Forgotten Me is a good line. If I'm playing against more of a red-blue strategy, I would love to just start with a Prince John John on 3, and 2 You Have Forgotten Me on 4. When they are going second, they will have an additional card that they're drawing, so they'll have plenty of cards in hand for you to discard. I like having the extra ink, but it's also an option to play on turn 3 in case I need to find some songs and some removal.
And look at that. We have triple Sudden Chill, You Have Forgotten Me, and an Under the Sea. This is just disrespectful. Like, I mean, there's no guarantees, right? But, like, I feel like we just have the ability to make sure our opponent cannot play the game. I don't know. How do you feel?
You definitely can do a lot. You definitely can do a lot. You don't have a 2-drop character, so you are going to be a little struggling there. I don't think playing Sudden Chill on 2 is where you want to be in this deck. Mind you, if they're playing an aggro deck, you do have the Under the Sea, so you're going to be able to sing it as long as you can establish the Prince John and the Ariel. And as soon as those are on board and dry, your Under the Sea is live, just alone. But don't forget, you have so much discard and Prince John that you do have to think about your ink decisions. I do think it's fine to ink a Sudden Chill as your first ink, but your next turn you might have to consider the Ariel depending on what your next card is.
Yeah, I do like that you mentioned that Under the Sea can protect you against those aggro matchups. It's a sing together 8, which means you can use multiple characters. Ariel being a singer 5 means all you need is another 3-cost character, and Prince John is the perfect one because he has ward, so most of the time he's just going to stay on board anyway, so that's going to be able to give you some outs against those aggro decks. Let's try again with a different hand. Let's alter our new hand real quick. All right, let's assume we're ready. All right, let's assume we're going first again, Zach, and this time we opened up Kita, You Have Forgotten Me, Ursula Deceiver, Heffalumps and Woozles, Lewis, Prince John, and an Under the Sea. What are you thinking about? We drew a 2-cost, so I'm definitely keeping that one now. And we have 2-cost, 3-cost, 4-cost. You have forgotten me again.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be close to the similar decisions that we made before. We are going to be keeping Prince John. We are going to be keeping You Have Forgotten Me. We are going to be keeping the Ursula Deceiver. However, we do have to kind of consider that in this list, we are only playing 2 Kitas and we are only playing 3 Under the Seas. Are we going to see those cards again? Well, I don't know for sure. But something I do know for sure is that we have 2 cards we can ink. We have a card we can play. We are going to be drawing 3 new cards before we can play our Prince John, meaning we can find more ink. This hand's looking really good, especially into like a bunch of different matchups depending on what you have. I personally think that this might even be a full keep, Kevin. This is an interesting take, but because we kind of have like everything we want, we can safely like ink a Heffalumps and Woozles as our first turn ink. I don't think that that's a card we would care to play early on. Once we know what our opponent's playing, we can decide on if we're going to be inking the Kita Under the Sea stuff or if we're going to ink the discard stuff. Because I do think it's going to depend on what we're playing against. Lewis might even be a better 3-drop on turn 3 than Prince John, depending on the matchup. But this is a deck that you just kind of want to be a little bit more flexible with. And because you're never really looking for a 1-drop since you play none, there's not a real reason to like aggressively mulligan. You kind of have the cards you want.
Wow. Yeah, honestly, I would have never thought that we full keep. I don't think we've ever had a full keep scenario on the channel yet that we've been doing this. Very interesting. I mean, I can't disagree. And you have more experience with this deck than I do. I think a lot of it does boil down to also like what are you trying to find? And maybe Under the Sea is the only card that I'm a little worried about just because it's an uninkable song. So like against an Emerald Mirror match, you can't really like get rid of it in between like the scenarios of an Ursula Deceiver coming down. So that would be my only concern. But I still understand where you're coming from with the full keep situation because like you said, you kind of just have the setup you want already, you know, and there's unless you're digging for something specific like a bare necessities or maybe like an aerial depending on the matchup. I think that's very matchup dependent, right? Like if you have more information on the matchup, then you can you can completely reassure yourself, cool, I don't need these cards, I'd rather have these cards. But going in blind to keep this whole thing, okay, I'll agree with you, Zach. Again, Under the Sea, probably the only card that I disagree with, but cool. So that's how you mulligan with that. Let's go ahead and get another hand going. Let's assume we're going second in this new one though. All right, so we're going second this time, Zach. We open up Prince John, Ursula, Lady Tremaine, another Under the Sea. We don't talk about Bruno, Roses Red, and Ariel Spectacular Singer.
This hand is different than the one before. Mind you, we also on the draw, so we're not going to be able to have the reaction timing we want with the Under the Sea. But before we had Kita and Under the Sea. It's a little bit of a different situation now without Kita. I don't recommend keeping Under the Sea without something like a Kita or a Lost in the Woods because that card might be hard to pull off otherwise. And you don't want to brick that You don't want a late game brick like that in your hand this early. And if you're going second, it's going to be a little bit tougher. So I'd recommend keeping more of the value cards. 100% also getting rid of the Lady Tremaine. That's just another late game card we don't want stuck in our hand early. It's honestly good that we found it in our opening mulligan. That means we will not find it when we draw more cards. Also, I don't recommend keeping the painting the roses red. I don't see a muses in our hand to get some value off of that right away. We don't talk about Bruno as a card that I don't know if you want to keep or not. It does make sense with the aerial singer that we have. It does give us immediate value, so we can play the aerial singer, and then on the following turn, if the aerial stays, to play our Prince John and sing the Bruno to be able to remove something and draw a card. But if you had to put anything else back, if you needed to find more options, if you just felt like it wasn't worth keeping a song in your hand because you feel like it's an Emerald Mirror match, sure, we can put the Bruno back as well. But we're always keeping Ursula, Prince John, and the Ariel.
And look at that, Zach Stone. We opened up another, we don't talk about Bruno anyways, alongside Kita, you have Forgotten Me, and Muses. Now, you talked about flexibility earlier, and I want to stress that this deck is exactly that. It's a very flexible deck, and you kind of want to pivot your strategy based off of your matchup, because right now we can go Ursula, Prince John, you have Forgotten Me as a curve. Maybe against certain matchups, you don't play Ursula on turn 2, right? If your opponent plays like a Popsicle or something, maybe you save that Ursula for a scenario where you feel like Pirates Life B prep might be coming down, right? Same thing with the Muses Bruno line we got going here. If they start inking some Emerald cards, maybe we don't commit to the Bruno. We have some other options. You have Forgotten Me on turn 4 instead of Muses. So a lot of flexibility here, right?
Definitely, and you can't forget the fact that you just have a lot of draw power with Prince John in the discard package too, that you could just find more answers with. And Muses is still just one of the most important cards in this deck.
All right, Zach, one more before we call it a day. We're going second. We're going blind, right? It's like the last round of Swiss in a tournament. The pressure's on. What are we doing? We opened up Luis, Cricky, Under the Sea, Hypnotize, Ursula Deceiver, and double Sudden Chill. Now, let me take the wheel on this one because I noticed that we don't have Ariel, Prince John combo. We don't have Kita. We don't have Lost in the Woods. So I do not want to keep this Under the Sea right now. Cricky, very good card. Cricky, very, very good card. There's only one in the deck. I don't want to keep it because it's a late game card, and I feel very much like this is a card that's going to be very situational. If I keep it in my hand, I'm going to have to ink it. Then I'm not going to have a Cricky for the rest of the game, and there might be a location that comes down. So that's going to go to the deck for sure, I think. And part of me wants to keep this Louis, but I feel like it's more of a matchup kind of situation, right? So how do you feel about just putting back 3? Is that should we putting back more?
I think that this is going to be okay. That the Lewis is probably the one thing that I would probably keep. I think that's probably the last thing that I remember Andre mentioning before in one of our previous videos, that this card overperformed for him in his lemon lime strategy. So I would probably consider keeping that. But if we're on the draw and we have 4 cards in our hand that say discard cards, or at least 3 of them that guarantee a discard card, there's a good chance we can rip our opponent's hand pretty early. So I do like keeping the multiple draw package. You do have something to ink as well as like the extra sudden chill or the Lewis, depending on if you know the matchup. But let's just go with that. We find Kitas, and honestly, guys,
Double
I
Kita?
am gonna say right now it's unfortunate because that's the only 2 we have, and inking them sounds really bad. But we
Oh,
might
yeah.
we might have to like later. So I'd probably start by inking a sudden chill. I don't think we would like to really keep multiple sudden chills in our hand, because it's definitely something you can get ripped out of your hand against the Emerald Mirror matches. But if you're on the draw, you can't avoid it. If you have 2 songs, it's unfortunate. Um,
Yeah, this feels like a tough hand to
we
play through now a little bit. Just like you mentioned, the Kitas,
yeah,
only having 2 Kitas in the deck, kind of an issue.
yeah, and it's just unfortunate when you find those cards that are like hidden uninkables, basically, and
Do,
that's what Kita I feel like is.
do you feel like if we take the risk and like successfully discard our opponent's entire hand, is it worth it if we have to ink both Kitas, or is it not worth it in the long run?
We do have a little copy of Lost in the Woods. There's still merit to positioning yourself with like a painting the roses red into something to return or bottom deck. But I don't think we can ink both ever. I think one of them is just an uninkable card, even if we skip ink, it's fine. Like there's a lot of inkable cards in this deck. There's not too many cards. We have that draw cards outside of Prince John. I mean, Ariel Singer can find us additional cards, but we don't have like sheer card draw like Diablos or
True, very true.
anything into that nature of consistent draw outside of Prince John. So without Prince John, you are looking to just kind of deny your opponents, anything that they're doing and deny them from lore gain, deny them from progressing their game state. You do that by disrupting their hand or disrupting their board. That's why we kept the Lewis. So we have to just play by ear and just be a little bit more reactive until we find the cards we need. Hopefully our opponent's just more of a slower deck because we will eat them alive with the cards in our hand. But yeah, overall, the game can change. We're going second. We get a new card, and hopefully that can be the inkable card.
Very well put together, Zach. I appreciate your insight. You play this deck more than I do, so I do like that you're here giving us a little bit more feedback on how Emerald Amber might be piloted. If you guys are gonna play this deck, remember join our Discord so that you can drop your deck lists when you win a set championship, because that's what we've been sharing today. All of these lists came from our Discord link down below, and we're gonna put the links in the description for all the decks as well if you guys want to look at if you guys want these lists. But continue my Lorcana Goons to do well at your tournaments. Play the tournaments whether or not you're doing well. It's a fun game, obviously. And yeah, keep us posted. Let us know how you're doing in the Discord so that we can feature you on our Meta Mondays video. Fabled, coming very soon. We're getting a lot of reveals this week. So little by little, we're going to start, piecing together what the new format is going to look like. So, we haven't made much content about like post-rotation decks, right? Because I just feel like we just don't know. There's so many cards that might get rotated out. So who's to say? Who's to say? But Zach Stone, anything you want to tell us Lorcana Goons before we call it a day?
Before we call it, guys, just want to let you know, continue to drop your deck lists in our Discord because this week we will be live streaming and playing your decks online. So make sure to drop the deck list and leave Dreamborn links with your deck list public. It is important. That way we can expedite the process a little bit quicker. So just once again, if you're not in our Discord, join using the link down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, Lorcana Goons, we'll see you next time.